Okay. Hello, Holly. Hello, John. We have a couple more minutes. I do invite you, please share to your own timeline, your own Facebook page down. And now it seems to be up in the top left, or you do it under the comment section. But share is that arrow, and share it to your own feed so that others might happen upon this time. We'll deal with that. Yes, Tom, I'm back. At least for a little, at least for tonight. Probably gonna do this more once a month than weekly, the way I was doing it at the height of things. So we'll give another minute or two. All right, we have about 45 people, and it's 7 o'clock. I hope everybody can hear me. I hope everybody can hear me, but what I'd like to do for an opening prayer today, I'm wearing my Knights of Columbus. It's Columbus Day. The church recommends for the Mass setting the prayers for the evangelization of peoples. And I know there's a lot of kind of conflict nowadays about the meaning, the impact of Columbus Day, but I still think there's a value to realize ourselves as being an evangelical people, that we have a desire and a responsibility to bring the faith to others. And so that's what we should be focusing on today. So I'd like to do as our prayer then, would be the closing prayer from the Mass for the evangelization of peoples. Let us begin in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. O God, you have willed that your church be the sacrament of salvation for all nations, so that Christ's saving work may continue to the end of the ages. Stir up, we pray, the hearts of your faithful, and grant that they may feel a more urgent call to work for the salvation of every creature, so that from all the peoples of the earth, one family and one people of your own may arise and increase. Through our Lord Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you in the unity of the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Well, my friends, it is good to be back. It's how many weeks? Probably, maybe I did one right after, not Labor Day, but the Monday after Labor Day. So about a month either way, maybe a little more, a little less. So it's good to be back. I hope you have some good questions. I hope we have some good participation. As I said, please do help kind of spread the word. Use the share function. If your screen setup is like mine, on the right side of your screen, there is, so on the this side of your screen, there, where you're seeing the running dialogue up above, you'll see the share, and share it to your timeline. Someone in your family or friends may happen upon it, so that helps everybody participate. So we already have some good questions. Let's see. Holly Ignatowski logged on fast and asked a couple of good questions that I may have to get back to you on. When did Eucharist on the tongue come into being? Did Jesus tell his disciples to take bread and eat? Didn't Jesus tell his disciples to take the bread and eat? So yes, in the upper room, it was, they would probably have passed the loaf or the basket, or a bowl, which had the unleavened bread, which, everybody has slightly different theories. It was probably more like, like a pita bread or a tortilla, or in Africa, I forget, like a pan, but a very, kind of a thin, not wafer thin like we do now with our mass-produced hosts, but a very thin, kind of almost like a pizza crust. So, and they would just tear off the piece that they would receive and participate in. The notion of receiving on the tongue, I would venture to guess, I do not have off the top of my head, and I will look into this possibly for next month, that as we became more ritualized, which would be over time, over decades, when we had the sense of what Paul wrote in his letters, where he restated most of everything that happened in the upper room. So we know that the disciples shared with him the institution narrative and how there would be that process. And it wasn't then until the early church fathers, Hippolytus, a writer in the early church, spoke or wrote about the liturgy as it was coming to be understood, that it would have a liturgy of the word, that it would have, the community gathered, a liturgy of the word, then the celebration of the Eucharist. As that became more formalized, I would guess that also it became more reverential and focused on the Eucharist. some of the ritual has to fit in later. Where we show kind of a reverence for the book of the Gospels. Well, that required that there be Gospels, and that was established over time. They decided what was in and what was out. So the liturgy books probably didn't start coming into. Certainly, there wasn't necessarily universal missal like we have now for many centuries, which would then have what we call the rubrics. Rubrics just come from the notion red. The red letters are the actions you take. The black letters are the words you say. That's for the sake of the priest or the presider. And the rubrics of celebration would come and become more formalized later. And so I can't say for sure when receiving on the tongue first came into being, but it would not be until a couple centuries after the death of the apostles. And even then, it wouldn't be a universal notion because there wasn't a universal missal until the Middle Ages, the early Middle Ages. So I can't give you more precise, but I wrote a note to myself. I'll see what I can find out. And then also, how do we be still and not only listen to God but hear what He is telling us? That's a really good question, and it's something that's a little unique to every person. I think it's just like if you ask yourself about, Holly, I don't know if you have kids. One child learns one way, another child learns in a different way. Some, can just sit back and listen to a lecture and take everything in and get it just right. Others have to have, hands-on learning, as they say, have to have activities. Our prayer life can have that same diversity in different people. I think it's always a both and. That's the great Catholic way, that it's a both and. It's sitting back and offering our own expressions, offering our own expression of need, of hope, of desire, of question, of angst, of worry, of anger, and then sitting back and allowing the response to come. The response to come not only in kind of how the soul wells up with an answer, the Lord speaking to us through our soul, through our own intellectual discernment, but also then how, the Lord answers our prayers through other people. If you're praying that you might get, help in a time of impoverishment, and somebody comes along and gives you food or gives you, well, then that's God answering the prayers. If your prayer is, I need to understand, do I have a vocation? And somebody comes along and says, you'd be a good priest or a good religious sister. That's part of the way that God speaks to us. So it's very much a both and it takes some time to discern and to learn what's going on, but it's good to bring it to prayer constantly, to keep praying about it, but don't keep praying just for the sake, I don't like the answer that I got. Okay. And Pranger Aschenbrenner, how do I order some St. Monica spiritware? I've sent emails, Facebook message, and Facebook comments and have not received any response. I'm at a lung from many years ago. The best thing, and contact the St. Monica School office. Either Katie or Amy there in the school office can get you connected. And you can find the phone number on the website. Go through stme.church and you can find that. So it's great that you want to wear your show your pride in your alma mater, your mother, as they say. Mary Claver, what is the status of the 2020 pilgrimage to the Holy Land? Okay, we have decided, those who had already signed up have decided to postpone it a year. There is just too much question in the air, obviously, about the notion of travel during COVID. Just a week or two ago, there were some renewed restrictions placed on in Israel and the Holy Land. So I just wanted to give people time to plan either way. So the new dates for a Holy Land pilgrimage. Same notion, the Monday after Ash Wednesday. I have this desire to do it at the beginning of Lent, so that a few weeks later, as we enter into Holy Week, there will be such vivid. It'll be the beginning of a a Lenten long retreat, and it'll really pay great dividends in Holy Week and Easter week. From Tuesday, it wasn't Monday, it's Tuesday because of the way the flights work. Tuesday, March 8th, with a return Friday, March 18th. March 8th through the 18th is where it's tentatively set. We formalize things only 11 months out, but you can mark your calendars. You can begin to save the date. You can pay attention to my social media in the parish in order to begin to get a little sense, next April, when we would have materials ready to go. All right, Mary, thank you for asking. How much to budget for a trip like this beyond the travel agency fees? Well, that's always a good question. I think some of that depends on your style of traveling. I've heard everything from $100 a day, just kind of for the basic things that you don't think you're going to use, but add up. You didn't get the right shoes, so you got to stop somewhere and buy a slightly better pair of shoes. You need to get waters. You need to get this. You need to get that. I mean, on a tour like this, a lot is covered, but a lot is done. Even if they say it's a group meal, we'd all kind of pay because it's just easier for the exchange rates and blah, 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 things like that, and getting what you want. So I've always heard on a vacation, and this is high end. It would be high end for me, but $75 to $100 a day. For me, that would include souvenirs and things like that. Maybe I'd get one extraordinary souvenir, and ship it back home. But I think talking with your own travel agent might be the best on something like that. Tom Snyder writes, our own Raymond Cardinal Burke recently issued a very stern warning about Catholics supporting pro-abortion political candidates. With the national elections and a Supreme Court confirmation upon us, and in light of our 501c3 nonprofit situation, do you know why the Holy Father has not issued a statement encyclical about Catholics not supporting pro-abortion candidates? Well, Tom, I can't speak for the Holy Father. What I can say is, here at the parishes, we are in the bulletin every week. We're doing two things, actually, two inserts. One is a 5-part series that comes from the Bishops' Conference on faithful citizenship, just the process of Catholics participating in the electoral process with the issues and whatnot. And it's stated very clearly that, pro-life, abortion, protecting life from conception till natural death is the preeminent issue of our time. The preeminent issue of our time. Now, then we're in the midst of Respect Life Month, so we have inserts every weekend of October for that as well. I think I don't know if there's anybody who doesn't know what the Catholic position is. Now, I think the question for referring to candidates gets murky for a couple of reasons. One, like you said, the whole 501c3 issue and what the government may or may not do. And Mary Klaver can actually probably speak to these things more poignantly than I am. She's an attorney, does a lot of pro-life work for... I'm not going to say which organization because I don't remember which of the two, Wisconsin Right to Life or Pro-Life Wisconsin, but truly committed to the cause. The problem with some of the statements that some priests are making, that a politician is making, is when it gets to be an identification of a specific party for this almost singular reason. I sincerely believe, sadly, I am saddened that I say this, but I sincerely believe we will come upon in 4, 8, 12, 16 years an election where both major party candidates are pro-abortion. I just think it's going to happen. I have no specific evidence other than my cynicism about the world in which we live. And then that's a question then of how we as Catholics participate in the process at that point. So I think we just need in that regard to be careful how we phrase the participation in the voting process. I think we are clear, like I said, abortion, pro-life issues, conception till natural death are the preeminent issues, civil rights, human rights issues of our time, and we cannot ignore or simply say it's one among many. We can't do that. So I think what you're hoping for, I would say, is there in the discernment that every Catholic has to make if they make a proper discernment. And maybe I'm being a little persnickety or anticipating, problems that may never come up. But I do think we need to we can't speak in absolutes of Catholic participation in the electoral process, because then we might co-opt ourselves out of participating in the electoral process when the time comes when we have to figure out what are we going to do to regain lost ground. Because like I said, I do fear the day when both candidates are pro-abortion. So let's see. Christina has a question. Jessica is asking on the question for her daughter. So Christina has a question. Were Adam and Eve before dinosaurs? My answer would be no. I think we know that the dinosaurs were thousands and thousands, millions of years ago, and human beings, from the best we can understand about that awareness that is what God gave us, that sense of what God made possible for us to have a soul, was the latter days. If we use the story in Genesis, there was first the creation of the light and the dark, and then there was the creation of the world and the moon, and then there was the whole idea of the water and the animals. And so that period of time, which we call a day, which may have been millions of years, because a day for God is not to be limited by, I don't know where I put my watch, but it's not to be limited by my watch. I don't know about your watch, but it's not limited by God's not limited by my watch. And so the dinosaurs came and went. The dinosaurs came and went, and human beings, when they reached that creative moment where God gave them soul, where it was that the creation was the image he wanted, the reflection in the image and likeness of God, and he breathed then a spirit into them, aspiration, breathing. So my answer would be that that the dinosaurs were before Adam and Eve. If you figure that one out, can I be your publicist? You're talking to Holly. Okay. Fantastic question. So, Nona, I'm glad to be back as well. Let's see. We just found out that when one of our children was baptized, neither godparent was confirmed. Is this a problem? So Marianne's asking this. So the question of godparents. Godparent is a role to play. It's eminently important, but it doesn't make a difference in the validity of the sacrament. It doesn't make a difference in the validity of the sacrament. All that's required for baptism is that anyone, doesn't have to be a priest or deacon or bishop, anyone pours water, moving water, and invokes, I baptize you in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. So that's ultimately all that's necessary for a valid baptism. Now, That's then the question of what is the expectation of the parents raising them in the faith. That's for the preparation. What is the role of the godparent to be? The role of the godparent is that they can support the parents and even substitute for the parents in educating and helping in the formation of the child growing up in their faith. So I think it's an opportune moment. I don't know if you say, I think you say at the time. We just found out that when one of our children was baptized, neither. I think it's an opportune time to encourage the godparents, both of them, to pursue confirmation, to pursue adult confirmation in the church so that they can continue to be a good example to your son or your daughter. So that's the thing to do. Okay, I'm looking at a couple of the other comments here. So, Marianne, yes, 2022. Did I say 21 by accident? 2022 is the new dates for the Holy Land Pilgrimage, March 8th through March 18th, 2022. 2022. Let's see. Thompson, in my lifetime, I have never heard of any presidential candidate who was pro-abortion. Okay. Let's see. Let's continue on down. How are the school kids and the teachers adapting to school during COVID-19? They look pretty happy on the playground when I've seen them outside. Yeah, they're doing very well. We have been blessed in both schools, St. Monica and St. Eugene. I keep a busy weekend, and today was my day off, but I have not gotten any word that in either school any student has tested positive or any teacher or staff member has tested positive. We have protocols relative if there is a concern in a family. Some people think we're a little too strict. Some people think we need to be more strict. That usually means we're probably going pretty well the nice center line on it. In the school day, they are well cohorted, meaning they stay with the same group of kids. They don't have the cafeteria. They stay in their classroom. They wear masks. They social distance. So when you see them outside, I think they're happy. It's a time that they are allowed to take masks off. So I think they like that. It's a time, obviously, to run around. I mean, it's any recess. We are getting used to, they are getting used to how to handle, recess equipment. I think we're now within their cohort. They can use, soccer balls or something like that, whereas we were avoiding that at first. So we're getting back into a pattern where that will work out. I did with a certain amount of observation and found it a little humorous. We didn't want to have that transfer opportunity of the soccer ball or things like that at first. So what do the kids do? They play tag. So they'll find a way. So we have to keep balancing that. We have to keep them attentive to mask and to sanitizing and to social distancing. And God willing, we will continue to have the success that we have had so far. So thank you for asking. Christina has another question. Will there be any more podcasts? I believe so. That is, Father Jordan, it was his idea back in March or April when we started, and it's his project. It's so you got to reach out and talk to Father Jordan about it. I think we will. I don't know what his thinking on when the next episode will be, but I'm hopeful that we do it. I do enjoy it. He gets to tease me a little bit, and I get to tease him as well on occasion. So we can pretty much, we can look forward to that. Let's see. Do you see people returning? John Paulson. Do you see people returning to the church as a result of the pandemic? And if so, how do we keep them once things are better? Well, there's been some studies. There was just, I don't know whether it was Pew Research. Oh, it was Real Politics or the Real Clear people, Real Clear pollsters or something. So there's those websites, Real Clear Politics, Real Clear Religion, Real Clear Culture, things like that. It's a whole series of news aggregators, but also then a polling unit. They had a result in a recent poll that Catholics in particular seem to be taking, seems to have taken the time of the lockdown and the quarantine as an opportunity to evaluate a need for that in their life, a need for some additional prayer and connectedness in their life. So, that that people will see a desire to come back. I am hopeful. I am really desirous. And then when we come, it's kind of like what we have accomplished in this time to invite people back or invite people to consider a connection. We need to keep nourishing. We have to take it seriously in terms of being a people that are welcome and connecting and being attentive to those around us, not in a smothering sort of way, but certainly in a welcoming sort of way. I mean, when's the last time when you can pretty well tell who's new at your mass on a weekend, and when a new family shows up, when a new person is there, do you say hello, welcome? Never noticed you before. If there's anything I can explain to you or connect you up with, so we have to do those evangelical things. We have to do the things with good liturgy, good formation, good catechesis, good homilies, to keep them connected. But the whole community has a responsibility to do so. Let's see, because Kevin, because we are discussing time in the Old Testament, many people are said to have lived for a long time. Methuselah was said to live till he was 800 years old. Is this accurate, or are the years mentioned symbolic or representative? So I would say they are symbolic and representative, but the question is, what are they symbolic and representative of? There is an old adage, you will live as long as somebody remembers you. You will live as long as somebody remembers you. Now, you use the example of Methuselah. Well, it's been written in Scripture, so he will always be remembered, even now more than 800 years. But his impact, if we call a generation 20 to 25 years, Methuselah lived, and the impact of, the wisdom of Methuselah, impacted people for 30 or 40 generations. So, obviously the more impactful people, lived a longer life, are recorded to have lived a longer life because they had more impact. Cultures, it became a much more Western notion that time was not as elastic. But you'll notice something that we do have that we still kind of will do in this way. Descendants. We will talk about, the impact that somebody had on, it's as if they had thousands of sons and daughters. So we may not be as willing, ever since, like I talked before about my watch, ever since we really became very precise in time, I think we've moved to looking at generational impact as being reflected in numbers of people, or kind of an expanse, a superlative of people. So most of the long lives of the Old Testament are a reference to that notion of the amount of impact that they had. Another example would be, you go to a parish. How long does the impact of the founding pastor last? At your parish, can you name the founding pastor? Well, then the impact is past. If you can, then that's a good thing. They did a wonderful thing. So things like that. So I think that it is symbolic or representative of the ongoing intergenerational impact. Are we close to going back to Sign Up Genius for Mass? My sense is, John, asking about Sign Up Genius for masses. My sense is I think we're at another plateau for a few more weeks. I know it's getting tighter, and we've talked about that, and we know we have to deal with that for kind of the where people sit and spacing them correctly. But we're hoping to deal with that more with some better planning and some a little more assertiveness on the part of the ushers. It is we were going to have some sort of sign up for Christmas, certainly for Christmas Eve. We are still working that out because it's also probably going to have some sort of ticket that you print off just so we can control it. I mean, that first Christmas Eve mass, we probably won't need it for, the last Christmas morning mass, but we will certainly need it for, the first one or two on Christmas Eve. In previous years, each parish has two on Christmas Eve, two on Christmas morning. We are likely going to add a third on Christmas Eve. So we would have something at the normal start time, 4 or 5 o'clock. Then we'll have something at 5 or 7, and then kind of a later mass in the middle of the night sort of thing. So we are trying to figure out the best way to handle this. We have no idea what the crowds are going to be like, but we're certainly going to return to. Going to return to. I don't know why that just popped up. Return to Sign Up Genius for Christmas. But I hope we can avoid it for the regular Sunday masses. It is getting a little tougher, particularly at St. Eugene, kind of because of the way the space is shaped and the available seating. But we're going to work on that. All right. Let's see. Agree the congregation needs to be the foundation. I think you're referring to keeping the people who return. Joe Musin, when incense is used during the preparation, can you discuss the reason or rationale for removing the missal from the altar before the offerings are incensed? Let's see. I don't remove the missal. I think there could be a couple of reasons for that. So I don't know, Joe, exactly what you're referring to. I would guess, though, probably two possible reasons come to mind right away. One is the idea that you are giving that kind of exclusive attention to the gifts that are brought by the people. We don't need to incense the missal. It's holy by its use. It's holy by the prayers. It's part of our worship in the sense that it is a tool for our worship. It is not going to be transformed into, some body and blood of Christ. The gifts of bread and wine are. The second is sometimes, depending on how the minister actually works, the process of incensing, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then I do 1, 2, and then I do a return. Sometimes if the book is on a stand, see, I don't put the book on a stand, partly because of the way my eyes and my glasses work, but if it's on a high stand, they may be worried about hitting it, or sometimes even I spoke a few months ago when we replaced the missals at both parishes up at St. Eugene. One of the reasons we had to replace it is there were these burn marks all over the cover. So something happens. Sometimes dry incense pops and does things like that. So that's the only thing, Joe, I can think of that you might be referring to. It is not required. It is not, indicated to my recollection in the rubrics that everything else has to be removed. But I can see some priest wanting to say, let's place the focus only on this, or in a practical sense, let's not knock the book or have any, spark fly and leave a little burn mark. I hope that helps your understanding. Amy, do you have any preference for how we receive communion? Standing or remaining kneeling? Standing, just wondering. Kneeling or sitting? This is an interesting question. It's one of those Rorschach questions, I think. Am I more traditional or more progressive? I will say And this is not something that's going to lead me to impose anything. I will say that, obviously with this situation where at our parishes, those of you that are not parishioners of St. Monica or St. Eugene may not know this, we, since since the Pentecost return to Mass, we, the ministers, will wind through the pews. Every other pew is empty, or two out of every three is empty for social distancing. So there's room for us to wind through the pews and distribute to the people at their place. The congregants do not come up in line in a procession towards the front of the church to receive. And so they're all still, when we're starting in their row, they're still kneeling in that prayerful preparation. I have been thinking with that I'm a bit impressed by the kind of the way the posture and the way the receiving while kneeling creates and impresses a sense, I hope, a greater sense of reverence, but certainly a different sense of reverence. I think even just going to the person, there's a lot less, your time when you're kneeling and waiting, I think is less distracted than if you're walking up. Oh, there are the Smiths. How are you doing? They do the little whisper, the little nod. No, you're just kind of there, and you have to pass the time in your own head and in your own heart and in your own prayer. So now I know we will never keep forever. We won't keep forever wandering through the pews, ideally, because we won't have the space to have every other pew empty. So we're going to return to a procession at some point. The question of receiving while kneeling then is a good one, and it's a fair one. I'm not going to put the communion rail back in, or there's no plans for anything like that. But I do know in the way we're doing it, it just seems to it's impressed me, and it seems to make it a unique thing. And maybe that's one of those things that have given people more focus to think and pray about during these weeks of COVID as they've come back to communion after months of not being able to receive. So so yeah, Amy, I hope that answers your question. I've got a couple that people sent to me earlier in the week. I'm going to grab a little drink here first. So let's see. What is sacramental about a funeral? The funeral mass has the sacramental Eucharist, but is there any special sacrament of the funeral? So the quick, simple answer, this is from Dennis. So no, the funeral itself is not a sacrament. Now, we can say the capital S sacrament is served if the funeral is celebrated within a mass. A requiem mass, a memorial mass, a funeral mass, all pretty closely the same thing. You can have a funeral outside of a mass. But the thing to remember is the old phrase, the sacraments are for the living. The sacraments are for the living. So what we're doing at the funeral mass is we are calling upon the people of God to pray for the repose of the soul of the deceased friend or relative. And that does a couple of things. It allows each of us to feel useful in a time when we're helpless. We're helpless to control our own death, much less somebody else's. And so it allows us then to pray for the repose of the soul. It allows us to reflect prayers of consolation and support for the mourning family. So we do that. So the community, the purpose of the funeral is for the family to feel that everyone, the church, is praying for the repose of the soul of the loved one, begging the Lord to receive them into a heavenly home. It allows people to realize that a powerful support is being given to them. Everybody looks to do the right thing at the time of a funeral, at the time of a death of someone. I have to sincerely believe that I'm a priest, so I'm coming from that perspective, that somebody will feel more consolation, will feel more comfort when you truly, truly participate in praying for their needs, the deceased and the families, rather than, sending an edible bouquet, sending flowers. They're a wonderful sign. They make the church beautiful, but it's more important that they feel and see in that tangible way, if you can be there, praying with them, for them, on behalf of the soul of one whom they loved. And it reinforces for all of us the powerful and purposeful moment that's happening there. So, a funeral is not by itself a sacrament. The Eucharist within it is powerful and profound. And there are sacramentals, small s. We use incense. We have the white pall. We have the Easter candle. We have all of these wonderful things that build that Catholic ethos of comfort, of consolation, of hope in the resurrection. So that's the way to do it. So I would say that's the key thing. So no, I wrote that note down. Let's see, did another one come up? Father Paul, my husband and I have been questioned repeatedly about our hesitancy to return to Mass. I am 71 and my husband is 78. Both of us struggle with high blood pressure. I struggle with asthma. Rather lengthy question. Allie, you have to, and remember, I think we probably had this discussion or correspondence right when the Archbishop's message came out that he was no longer offering a general dispensation. But the whole notion of your ability for your own well-being, for the well-being of others, to participate in the Eucharist is still a decision you can make in good conscience. And if you need the advice, the support of your pastor, shoot me an email, call me. Obviously, if you have, a bona fide reason just by you're both in your 70s, that's like multiplying the risk factor. You both have the high blood pressure, and asthma multiplies the risk factors. It's just one thing on top of another. Nobody should fault you. Nobody should make you feel guilty. If it's, if you're 35 and the kids are coming from the school and it's just a little busy and I worry and blah, it has to be a bona fide worry. And Allie, what you list there, you've got a bona fide reason to presume that you don't, God will understand. And I will say the dispensation I can grant, the pastor can grant the dispensation, and I would do so in your case very, very easily. So, does this make me one of those people who don't go to Mass because I'm afraid of catching the virus? Well, if you have a genuine fear of catching the virus, like I said, all the studies show if a college kid catches the virus, okay, they'll be out for a couple days with, at worst, a cold, unless there's some other condition, and maybe there are rare cases. I don't need to say that, I want to be careful about too blanket a statement, but your hesitancy, Allie, I think is coming from a well-founded place. So, let's see. So Joe is just referring to removing the missile. Let's see. My eyes are going, and I'm doing the light a little different here, so that's why I'm having trouble reading my notes. I've been meaning to ask this question of a priest for several years. A few years ago, we had a mission at St. Eugene led by a priest. I think his name was Father John Ignatius. Whatever the name was, he mentioned in one of his talks that we must pray out loud in order for our prayers to be heard. I think he mentioned that God knows our thoughts, but Mary and the other saints would not, quote, hear our prayers unless we said them out loud. I've never read or heard this anywhere from anyone else. Please comment. I think it's malarkey. I mean, yeah, okay. If God's hearing your prayers, okay, let's say Father John is correct. about, that God can hear your prayers, but Mary and the saints can't. I love Mary. I love the saints. Any of you who have been into my office knows that I have great reverential devotion for engaging in the lives of the saints, in the life of Mary as the great mediatrix, as the Theotokos. That being said, if God's hearing my prayers and Mary can't, and Mary's saying somewhere in the corner, "Speak up, can't hear you," it really doesn't matter. If his own statement is God's hearing the prayers. The saints are intercessors on our behalf. The saints are carrying our message. So I think he contradicts himself a little bit there. I also just think, have you go and see the movie Fatima? Just came out. It was at Fox Bay. I don't know if it still is. If it's not at Fox Bay, order it on one of the streaming services. I watched it on Apple iTunes, the movie section of Apple iTunes. I think it's in Amazon. I think, it's any number of the downloads. And remember how it works if you haven't seen the movie, but remember the three children, in their conversation with Mary, nobody else heard them. Nobody else heard her. Nobody else saw her. So I don't think physical voice, physical hearing proves or disproves. In fact, we know that the apparitions occurred, even though everybody gathered and nobody else saw or heard Mary. I think if it can work in that direction, it can work in the other direction, that the Lord, anybody in heaven, will hear our prayers. Okay, so I'm sure that priest had a good reason. He was trying to get some excitement to participate in prayer, but that one just doesn't make sense to me. So let's see, another one. I had a question this week. I had two questions. Two more questions come in this week. And one introduces, how much time? We got plenty of time. So, I don't know whether they sent this to me intending for me to use it as a question on the virtual Narthex. A school parent talking about the children, and they get ready, and both our schools do the wonderful thing, preparing for All Saints Day, of, having a focus on dressing up like a saint, ideally your patron saint. So I'm going to tip a hand here. I hope that the family doesn't mind. Some of the families may figure out who this is, but it's not violating the seal of confession or anything like that. But the question was that the daughter's name is Ruth Isabel, and the mom was a little concerned. Okay, we chose this name, a beautiful name, and it's in the Old Testament, Ruth, and Isabel, they're not quite sure. And so I said, it broached two questions. One, Isabel is actually a variant of Elizabeth, and many names, Sean in Irish, Ian in Scottish, Johann, Juan are all John. So that happens, in a lot of things, and so you'll have variations of the name. So Isabel is fine because there's Elizabeth of Portugal. There's Elizabeth of Hungary, and there is an Isabel. There's a blessed Isabel, as well. But the question that was raised was Ruth. Does Ruth count as a saint? So the answer, Ruth being an Old Testament, we refer to generally, it's kind of a modern reference, but I think it's fine, it's good. A matriarch, we've referred to the Old Testament patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Moses, as the patriarchs. But then we have the prophets and things like that. The question is, do we know, in the same way we have a process of proving, of coming to confidence, coming to moral certitude, that, the saints of modern times, blessed Carlos Acutis, is he in heaven? Well, people asked for his intercession, and a miracle was brought about. So that is considered a manner of proof to add to our confidence that blessed Carlos is in heaven in the presence of the Lord. What do we know about Ruth? What do we know about Isaiah? What do we know about Jeremiah or Jacob or Moses or Noah or all of that? Well, first, we know from the Creed, Jesus descended into hell, from the Apostles' Creed. And so the Catechism tells us that in that time, he went down to have the full experience of death, but also then in doing so to open the gates of hell, so that all those of goodwill, of willingness and wanting to be saved, would be saved. He opened the gates of hell. So all of these people that have contributed to the first covenant, contributed to the Israelite people being the chosen people, certainly in their release, we know that something had to occur. I think the second proof is if all of history counts, if you get a book in the Bible, you're probably in heaven. So, and there is a book of Ruth in the Old Testament, beautiful name. Ruth means beauty. So, appealing. That's why when we use the word ruthless, it's ugly, it's unappealing, it's behavior that, we don't want. But, to say someone is ruthful, it's another way of saying that they're beautiful. So Ruth is beauty. So, so the Old Testament patriarchs, there are feasts. The Eastern Orthodox Church does a much better job with this than we do. Some of you also know I really enjoy and appreciate iconography, the Eastern paintings of the saints or of the scenes from the life of Jesus or Mary. They will have icons, strong presentations, bold presentations in their church spaces of Isaiah, of Jeremiah, of Moses, much more than we do in the Latin church. So yes, the answer is yes. Ruth is, if there's an Old Testament book or one of the patriarchs or matriarchs or prophets of the Old Testament, we would be highly confident to say that they are in heaven, in the presence of God. So that's what we can do there. Let's see. Another question that came to me this week, kind of spurred on by my column in the Bulletin last week about this Saturday's Souls for Education walk. It's a virtual walk this year. But my column about Catholic education, and it was a very nice email with concern about why we don't in our Catholic schools offer enough opportunity for children with special needs. So, and it was a good question. It was a challenging question. I spoke, actually, I asked for some input from the Archdiocese and kind of their take for the general, policy throughout the Archdiocese. Ultimately, there's no policy that says we won't or can't offer special education. Some parishes can do different types of programs in different manner, in different ways. I think everything is individually determined. Maybe, some parish school may be able to go in a direction because of some experience of a family or a teacher who, they deal with autism. They have a programmatic way of dealing with autism. Or they, cooperate. Some of the schools cooperate with St. Coletta's. Remember St. Coletta's was a long time, they do a lot of outreach now, but long time a residential school for significant developmental handicaps, or schools that have had some experience working with Down syndrome. My point is, every school is a little different in what they can offer and how they can make it a positive Catholic school experience for the child. The next layer of the question was, well, what about religious education? How to make that accessible? And again, it's a question. There are a lot of questions. I think any school would be open to considering it. Sometimes, like I said, it depends upon the mix of teachers and their experience that we have available. Catholic schools do not have the same level. They don't have the same size of school or the same level of staffing. And so to be able to move a child through multiple years may not be as easy as in a public school setting, which has usually a multi-school system and can move around professionals. And that's another key thing, is professionals and the needs of the child. So it's a great question and a great challenge to me as a pastor, to our school principals and our DRE, our religious child formation, about what we can do to best offer. This is an area, like so many things in the world today, as we come to better understanding of what can and should be offered, we may also have to balance it with how to best create the critical mass of resources. And by that I mean, it may not be possible that St. Eugene can offer something, but St. Monica can, or we trust, a Holy Family participates in, specialized education opportunities. St. Robert's has a format, and, it all depends on what the challenge is, The challenges in life are for children are so varied, and I don't want to make a blanket statement about one condition or circumstance versus another. But I think it's an open possibility, but it requires a realistic kind of, let's be sure we're doing what's best for the child in question. So let's see. I'm glad to be back as well, Mary. Glad I see you back at church. So thank you. Bill Hudson, the virtual Narthex is a wonderful opportunity. I always learn a lot. Thank you. So you're quite welcome. Mary Jo, I have 2 special needs kids that have gone through the Catholic schools. Depending on the level of need, Catholic schools can do a great job. Thank you, Mary Jo, for saying so. I think depending on the level of need, I think the skills of the teachers, but certainly we want to find a way to keep the child connected to the community that is their faith community, that is their parish, a circle of friends. It's beneficial to the child. I offer that in a general sense. Every child's a little different, especially a child with special needs, but it's beneficial for the child with special needs to experience the parish community and the children of the parish, and it's beneficial for the children of the parish to interact and understand what life is like for a child with special needs. So I think it can be a mutually beneficial situation if it's handled well and properly. So we got, those are the questions that I received via email earlier in the week. I'll do a quick check to see. Nope, doesn't look like anybody sent me an email during the show. We've got just a couple of minutes before my hour is up. So if anybody wants to make a quick posting, let me just check this spot real quick. A couple of things do continue. Please pay attention to the parish's communications through social media, through the bulletin, as we look ahead towards, Advent and Christmas, because as I've said, those are going to be some challenging logistics when they come. Please do. We start Committed to Christ, our multi-week process of intentional discipleship, the 6 pillars, prayer, mass going. Let's see. I've got to get them all. Prayer, mass going, formation, service, evangelization, and financial support, the 6 pillars of intentional discipleship. Please do give some thought to that. Obviously, your commitment in volunteer ways and in financial support are outward signs of your intentional discipleship. Pay attention to the inserts that we've already been having and will continue to have on faithful citizenship. This is a very important election, as they all are. This is a very turbulent time, so please do be reflective on that. And then Respect Life Month. October is Respect Life Month, so every life. I got push back one time because I would only say every life matters, all life matters, and all life matters from the beginning to the end, conception till natural death. So we need to keep that forefront in our minds. Mary and Top, where will Thanksgiving Mass be this year? We are likely going to do it at both parishes. Just to make sure we have the opportunity for sufficient social distancing. So also keep an eye out for that. I think we'll finalize that this week or next, but we're probably going to have it at both places this year. Please do, share this. Even people can come back and watch later. A lot of great things happening, a lot of great opportunities here in the parishes. I am so thankful for all of you. Let's finish with a prayer. It is October, so I'm just going to check one thing. So it is October, so let's finish. It's a Marian month. We had Our Lady of the Rosary last week, so let's finish with a Hail Mary. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. God's blessings upon all of you, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Go in peace, everyone.